for tuning in to another episode of the Naina Redhu experience. Today I am specifically talking about photography and specifically about this, there's this website called Masterclass.com. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. They have a bunch of classes which are conducted by really accomplished professionals in their genre. So you've got writers, you've got fashion designers, you've even got a tennis player, and not just any tennis player, it's Serena Williams. So they have like the best people you would ever want to learn from. And they had recently announced that they would be having Annie Leibovitz on the masterclass as one of the classes that you could buy. And I was super excited because I was like, oh my god, finally I will get to see something, you know, behind the scenes of what she does, how she does it and things like that. Because I've always been a huge fan. I mean, again, it's not someone that you would know if you're not working in the photography space, I suppose. If you're not in the magazine or the advertising space, you probably wouldn't know who Annie Leibovitz is, which is fine. But if you're in this space, there are some photographers that you would have heard of or whose work you've seen because they've just been around for so long and they've done such amazing work. They've worked with the top magazines in the world, etc. Although the landscape is kind of changing, so some of you might think that they're like dinosaurs, and I kind of agree. But it's just the way the technology is changing. It's really fast, so there are new people coming up all the time. There are people on Instagram now who are like Instagram photographers, but they're not really professional photographers, but they are professional photographers because they're getting paid for it. So it's a crazy world. So where Annie Leibovitz comes from, all this stuff is like crazy new for her, I suppose. I don't think she herself would be posting her stuff on Instagram because A, she doesn't really need to in that sense, not anymore. So when they announced the class, I was like, oh my god, that's a class I really need to be on because I wanted to see what she's like. And I don't really take a lot of photography workshops or attend any or even subscribe to any online because for me, I feel that I get influenced quite easily. So I don't want to be influenced. I want to develop my own style. And it takes a long time to develop your own style. You find your own comfort zone. And sometimes you will hear people say things which will be like, oh shit, you know, I'm not doing all that. And that's supposed to be fine, but then it just stays with you and then you're like, shit yaar, ye bhi karna chahiye, ye nahi kar rahe hain, why? You know, maybe I should try like that, maybe I should buy more equipment, maybe I should... So I don't really like doing that. I'm more concerned about things like professionalism and because I think if you're a professional photographer, you have to be at least a mediocre photographer in terms of the kind of work that you're producing, otherwise no one will hire you. I mean, if your images are not good, then that first part is not happening. So I'm assuming that once that has happened, right, then what? How do you take it to the next level? How do you keep yourself inspired? How do you produce images? How do you decide who to work with? How do you push for a certain concept that you want to work on with the client who might not completely understand what it is that you do? How do you price your projects, especially in today's world where the way technology is moving, like you don't even know who's a professional photographer anymore, right? So how do you navigate that? Now if someone does a class like that, then I want to know what other photographers are thinking. But still, you know, Annie Leibovitz is this like, oh my god, like can we just get on with the class already? So the day they announced it, I was on it and I went through all of it, and I'm not sure how many minutes it is, but they kind of divide it into chapters. So there were like 14 chapters. And towards the end of it, they did show her shooting. So they did show her making one photo and then her editing process. And I have seen the kind of comments that people have left who took this class, and people have asked for refunds and things like that. And I don't get it. Like, when I saw the class, I was like, oh my god, like, it's Annie Leibovitz. Like, holy shit, like, you get to see behind the scenes of Annie Leibovitz. Like, holy fuck, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, I know I'm saying like too many times because it was that good. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a personal thing again. I've seen some other workshops and classes, like there's this thing called Creative Live which Chase Jarvis runs, and I love Chase and I love the concept of Creative Live. If they did a Creative Live with Annie Leibovitz, I would probably watch it. But they do Creative Live with, not with people of Annie's caliber, but maybe a little newer, younger ones. And I don't have the time to sit for 5 days and go through a workshop. I really don't. I don't care how much it costs. Even if it's for free, nahi hai 5 din baith ke dekhne ke liye. Just no. So in that sense, I must also clarify that with Masterclass, my first class that I had seen was Werner Herzog, who is a cinematographer, he's a filmmaker, he's a director, etc. And that kind of set the tone. It wasn't really a class in where he's going to tell you how to shoot, but he comes from a more conceptual, you know, how he started his life, who his influences were. He talks about his films, what inspired them, why he did certain things, and some of the, you know, the one-liners or advice that has helped him. So he shares that, and he says what might help someone else who's trying to make a film. I'm not even a filmmaker, but I wanted to know what, you know, Werner Herzog was thinking, or where was he coming from. And I kind of went into Annie's class with the same expectations. I was not expecting, you know, technical one by one, this is how you do, this is how you frame for somebody, this is how you control light. No, I wasn't looking at that, because I'm past that. Like, I think you should be able to make photographs even if you know nothing about technicalities. And when she said that she's not a technical photographer, I was like, yes, I'm not a technical photographer either. Like, I can shoot in a studio, but I would much rather shoot with natural light. I would much rather shoot outdoors. I would much rather shoot solo. Like, I don't even want an assistant, because I think that's a headache. And you have to understand that, you know, she is photographing in the US or in a Western country. I am in India. I have tried to work with assistants precisely twice, and they didn't turn up. So I would much rather shoot where I only have to depend on myself and not be dependent on someone else, so that, you know, when I tell a client that this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. So you have to look at these factors, and I really identified with what she was talking about. I don't know her as a person, so I don't know if she screams at people, if she's an asshole to people. I have no idea. I have never met her. I cannot judge that. But the class was amazing. She also, it was very relatable. There were lots of things I identified with. One was that whole technical bit. I am not a technical photographer either. I mean, give me one lens. I use a speed light. I love using speed lights. I love bouncing them off walls and objects and things like that. And I can shoot in the bright sun as well, because I like using a speed light even there and max it out. And so you develop your own style, and you see what you're comfortable with and how that goes. And I think watching her masterclass made me realize that I'm okay. That if someone like her is okay with, you know, who says that gear is not important, and I've been saying that most of the senior photographers whose work I have followed, they all say that gear is not important. And I read a comment, someone said that, oh, someone's saying gear is not important and she's shooting on a digital Hasselblad. Well, that's because she has access to the equipment. So equipment not important doesn't mean that it's not important, like you don't need it. You need equipment, obviously, to make a picture, and we all have our preferences. So it's what I would think is, for example, I recently photographed a friend's wedding on the Pixel 2. It's a smartphone, and what that means is that as long as you have the picture, it doesn't matter what you made it on. That's what it means. It means that it is more important to create the photograph than to worry about, oh, you know, मेरे पास वो वाला lens नहीं है, वो वाली light नहीं है, वो वाला camera नहीं है. The idea is to make the picture, and equipment is secondary to that. If you are not even in the frame of mind that you have a concept or there is a particular image you want to execute, it doesn't matter what you execute it on, right? There was an image that they showed Annie working on. She wasn't really doing it digitally because, you know, she's old. She was using a pointer and she was telling her editing guy to do it for her. And people are complaining, oh, she doesn't even edit her own images. Like, hello? You don't need to, not at that point. Like, what are you talking about? So many people are so pissed that, oh, this wasn't a masterclass, blah, blah, this, that. I kind of get it in the sense that they probably shouldn't have branded it as a masterclass because she's not really an instructor per se, but it still gives a lot of insight into how she works, how she thinks, where she's coming from. And the other thing that I found really, it made me like so happy was like, she says, there's this image that she's done with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West and their baby. I think this was their first baby, North. I'm not sure, that could be totally wrong because I am totally unaware of how all this works. And in that picture, he's taking a photograph of his daughter while Kim holds the child. And so Annie has shot it from, you know, behind them. And there's a full mirror behind where Kim is standing. And Annie's not visible. So it's someone asked her, so she's got like 5-6 students around her, and one of them asked her, so did you edit yourself out of the image? And she says, yeah. And that was beautiful, because there is so much of this shit going on these days where people are like, "Are ye to edit kiya hua hai?" And I'm always like, I'm not a journalist. I am not, representing the pure truth here. There is some art involved. So yes, there is some painting involved. There is some Photoshop involved, and it's okay. What is the ultimate goal of the image? The editing should depend on that. Someone asked me 4-5 years ago, I'd done a photo shoot in a bikini, and there was a shot of me with my back visible, and one of my old school friends on Facebook was like, oh my god, you've got flawless skin, like amazing, this, that. And I said, it's photoshopped. I don't think anyone has flawless skin on every part of their body. Some of it's going to be like dark and wrinkled or pimply or acne or big pores or some shit like that. I mean, and acne comes and goes, so it's fine to edit it because it's gonna go 2 days later. You just happen to shoot it today. And what about makeup? Isn't that editing? So there's this whole thing of, "Arey, to edit kya hua, too much HDR, this, that." Arey, you do your thing, no, yeah. Am I selling the image to you? Are you the client who's paying for it? No, nah. The client might have given a different brief, yeah. So I always find it amazing when people who have no idea about photography will come and comment and say things like, "Ye to bahut edit kiya hua hai." Don't you think that the color is too much? Well, I mean, I guess you can leave a comment if you have the time on your hands to kind of do that. But it's like, it's my image. I maybe have shot it for a client, and that might have been the bloody brief, yeah. So what's the problem there? And people say, oh, but you're misrepresenting how you look. Not really. I mean, in real life, you can come and look at me, how I look. Makeup is also kind of misrepresentation. The kind of clothes you wear and the kind of bra you wear, and it makes you look thinner, fatter. In winters, you look fat. Like what? Where does it end then? So it's just the way Annie said, yes, I did. It was like, that's beautiful. Like, yeah, obviously, mirror ke samne pura team dikh raha hoga na, sabko edit kar diya, khatam. And you're producing it for a magazine. So I think it was interesting to watch, and I found it amazing to watch. There are a lot of things she said which I was like, I should make notes. And as a photographer myself, I mean, I've been shooting professionally for about 11 years now, and even for me, I'm always looking to learn from the best, and Annie really is one of the best. So that was great that I got a chance to actually listen to what she had to say. And I'm not really sure, although Masterclass has this thing where you can interact with the photographer or the people who are in the discussion, etc. I haven't really done that because honestly, I might be a little scared to submit some of my images for Annie to look at. I don't know what she might say, and then I might be like, nahi. So I haven't really done that, but they have that also where you can show some of your images and get feedback from the photographer, or at least somebody from her team would be, looking at it. But it was insane looking at, how she stands and she holds the camera and what her assistant is doing, and then the way she has envisioned a shot, like what part should be darker, what should be lighter, what is she trying to show, combining two photos and seeing which works, some elements of one photo. You should really check it out. This is not paid or endorsed or sponsored in any way by anybody. I really wanted to talk about it because I saw some of the comments and they were just disturbing, because I think people came in with different expectations. They probably hadn't seen any other masterclasses, so they probably did not know what this was going to be like. Some people were like, oh, this is like a documentary, it's like an interview, it's a really expensive interview. It's for $90. I mean, I would, if there's a very few photographers that I would really save up for. So this was like a no-brainer. And they have, Masterclass has recently started doing this also, where it's a yearly subscription of like $180, and you can watch all the classes. So you don't have to pay per class. But seriously, I think if you are a fan of Annie Leibovitz, you know who she is, and you've been curious about her work, and you want a little more insight about, what happens behind the curtain, I think you should check it out. And God, I mean, like, sure, I mean, you can ask for a refund if you don't like it, etc. But I think it's, especially because she's never really done anything like this before. It was a really big deal for me, and I'm going to watch it again. And maybe once more. I'm sure I missed some stuff. I was so starry-eyed. I was like, oh my God, she's actually talking about how she works. And her experience is obviously different from mine in the sense that she's worked more for magazines. She was with Rolling Stone for God knows how many years. I don't really work with magazines. I don't have that beat. I work more on independent commercial projects with clients, etc. I don't really do magazine stuff. I have thought about it, but I just don't think I've ever gotten around to it. My biggest problem has been that especially in India, they don't really pay that well. And so many magazines have reached out to me and are like, send us some photos. As if that's like, send us some photos, boss, paise kaun dega? Like, are you not going to pay for it? And every time I say that, yeah, they're for sale, I never hear back from them. So they've been extremely unprofessional for the most part. So I haven't really worked with magazines. Again, whenever you're looking at all this, you have to look at it with a pinch of salt. She is working out of the US. She started when photographers were not a dime a dozen. Right now, anyone with a camera is a photographer. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. You shine, your work shines if you're good and you find your tribe, you find your audience. And watching that masterclass made me want to go out and shoot more. So I think it's totally worth it. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Naina Redhu experience. And I am really happy that I got to see this. If you haven't seen it, let me know if you are interested and if you want to know more about the class, and I can, kind of share what my experience was. And if there are any other interesting, really senior photographers who've done something like this, tell me. I'm always looking for it, but no 5-day classes, please, no time. And let me know if there's something specific you want me to talk about at the next episode of the Naina Redhu experience. And bye!